Hello and welcome to another Wobbly Camera Guy video. In today's video we're going to have a look at this Hira 6 transistor radio made in Hong Kong from around about the late 1960s. And as you can see, it's a transistor radio that's made at the cheaper end of the market. It's just got this little vinyl case on it, this pretend wood effect sort of finish on the front, and it's just a medium wave only receiver. So I have put a battery in, and amazingly enough it does actually work. So let's just try it. Crackle crackle. So we have got something out of it, but to be honest it is a little bit deaf. And very directional. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take the cover off and we'll have a look inside just to give some sort of comparison. This is a transistor radio from the early 1960s. This is an American one, and you can see the quality leather there compared with the cheap vinyl there, but nevertheless it still did its job. So let's take it off, and this is what we've got. As I say, it's not the most elegant thing, it's in better days, but it's been around for a long time, so it has every right to be look a little bit battered. So let's get into it and see what we've got. First of all, there is no model number on this at all, so I can't tell you what it is. What I have done, I've had a look at the transistors in them, and the transistors, they're actually either Mitsubishi or Toshiba, depending on where they are in the circuit. The actual Mitsubishi ones, they are a transistor which is a 2SB135, and they were around about 1969, so kind of dates us around about 1970, I would have thought of. This has been a part of quite a few times, because as you may or may not see, the actual retaining screws, they're actually a pair of wood screws. So this has been got at quite a few times, but nevertheless it still works. To get this off, and I was struggling this morning thinking this is just a dial that you actually just sort of pull off, and it isn't. It's actually got a little glued on front little disc, and I made the error. I actually ended up breaking it, so I've actually had to super glue this back. But what you have to do is unscrew, if I could see what I'm doing, unscrew the retainer screw from the actual dial itself into the capacitor. Oops, that comes off, it's kept itself. Oops, let's just take that battery off, it's a pain, isn't it? And then we'll undo these two retaining screws. They don't even fit properly, to be honest, but they're doing their job. What I want to try and do is just see if we can get rid of those crackles and see if we can improve the reception a little bit. The screwdriver is bouncing around, so will this come out? Let's try and get the little devil out. Oh, the screw's still hanging in there. Let's see if he'll come out now. Yes, we've got him. So, okay, a little protective cover there for the speaker. So, just to try and elaborate a little bit more, the two output transistors there, they're the 2SB ones, they're the actual Mitsubishi ones. And I think what we've got is a mixture of germanium and silicon transistors. It's a 6 transistor set. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 silicon, 5 germanium, and there's the 1 silicon. I'm sorry, I can't read the actual description of the transistor. It's just too compacted, and to be honest, the Toshiba ones, though they've got the Toshiba brand name on, there's no visible markings for them at all. So what have we got on the back? Quite a mismatch, as you can see. What I am going to point out is this circuit board has seen numerous different upgrades in production, because you can see a lot of the pre-drilled holes that actually have not been taken advantage of. So this is either a circuit board that's designed maybe for a medium wave and long wave sort of receiver, and they've just pared it down for this medium wave, or it's been through a long evolution. So whichever the case, it's in, you know, it's had a fun life. So this is the volume on off, and that's the one that's a bit crackly. And what I want to do is spray some switch clean that. So I'm going to actually do that first before we do anything else. So I'm just going to take off the little retaining wheel. And I hope you can see this, because I'm struggling to see this because I've actually got my cameras right in the way of what I'm doing. Now unfortunately this is a sealed resistor. Now can this come off? Can I should be able to just squirt a little bit of squirt cleaner in there. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is where I'll need 3 hands to do it, but let me give it a whirl. Oh, that's a big bollock, but let's see what we do. Let's just pop that back, and then we should be able to move that around. So, okay. Oh, that's not gripped in, is it? Let's undo that just a little bit. There's a little moulding on it that just sits square on. There we go. On that little pot. Now I'll just put a dab on here, just on the on-off switch. I'll pop my battery back on, just see if that's actually made any difference. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing here, because I'm doing this a little bit awkward. I have to turn this by hand. Well, it's got rid of the crackles a little bit, so that's a good start. Okay. So what else have we got to play with? Well, the only other place that sometimes can reduce signal strength is on the earphone socket. There's a tiny little sort of contact that opens and closes when you put your earphone in, and that tends to get gummed up with age. So I'm actually going to see if I can try and get that off and clean the contacts up. May not make any difference, but we'll give it a whirl. And yes, I haven't got the right tool, but it's an old radio, so it's not going to be the end of the world. Now then, there, if you can try and bring it forward, if you can see, and if you can see the actual sort of contact there, just try and clean that if we can. This is going to be so difficult. It's literally just a spring contact. How can I do this? I can just leave that up just a little bit. This is going to be a little bit more awkward than it sounds. Okay, I tell you what, I was going to try and get a little bit of sandpaper in there, but that's going to be such a difficult job. Put a little bit of contact cleaner in it anyway. Is this going to work? No, because I'm not going to get in there anyway. I know what I'm going to do. Let me just see if I can hold that with a bigger screwdriver. It ain't going to work, is it? I want it just to try and clean those contacts. This is the crude way of doing it. No, I just simply can't get in. Okay, well, let's hope that the cleaner has done a little bit there. Okay, not going to spend too much time on that, so let's pop it back first. This is where you need really little feely hands. Let's get in. I hope you guys can see this okay. So I'm actually doing this in my garage, and it is snowing outside and it is freezing in here. So if you see my hand shaking slightly, it's because I'm cold. Right, what else are you going to do on a Saturday when it's snowing but play around with a little radio? So, what else can we do? What I'm going to do is pop this back. First of all, let's do it the right way. Let's put the little battery protector moulding in. Let's pop him back. I'm going to pop the screws back on, and then what I'm going to do is see if we can do anything with the alignment cans. Just put the screws in first, and then I'll be able to show you a little bit better. And this is where it gets really fiddly. So let's get the one in. And there's a second one. Okay, I'm going to pop the dial back on, and what I'm actually going to do, just to retain the front little bezel, in fact what I'm going to do, it says backwards and forwards, is just try and clean the front of that while the dial is off, even though it's just an old shabby radio. Why not? Oops. And then we can do that just with the back of that dial, get about 20 billion years of grime off. I'm not going to spend any time on it, but sorry, I probably had a shot out. Okay, so let's just pop him back on, see if he'll sit right. Come on. There you go, screw a little screw in. I'm hoping he's gone in. Oh, there's no screw in there. Where's he gone? That screw decided to fly away. There you go. To hold the little disc, rather than gluing that in, as you can see it's been glued in before, but this big dab here, and that's why I ended up breaking off, because I was trying to see whether or not they actually come off and just couldn't get it off, so I actually made a mistake with that. But I'm going to use just a little bit of sellotape, which you might think isn't going to work, but I'm just folding over as a temporary thing. If it'll fold over, go on, stick. I've probably got clean on my fingers now, which is probably not the best thing. I'm just going to pop that on just to, as a temporary measure. There we go. So, turning back on. See if we can get a station. Okay. That's with the volume high. What I'm going to do, if I can find it, is to see if we can try and adjust the inner cores of those IF transformers. There we go. Okay. Bit of research says that we've got 3 IF cans here, and they can see that they're actually sort of colour coded. What I can tell, the yellow one is the first can for the oscillator. Sorry, beg your pardon. The red is the oscillator, this one for the first oscillator. Then you've got the first IF, which is the yellow one, and the black one is the second IF, which is this one. So I'm not going to touch the actual oscillator itself. As you can see, these have actually been messed around with, but let me just see if we can do any different. Just moving these around just a little bit, they're very tight. I'm not moving around too much. Let's go the other way. That is so tight. Oh God, tell you what, I'm going to do what you shouldn't do, is use a metal screwdriver. I just need to get some leverage. Tiny little bit of improvement. That's a little bit better. I know everybody's shouting at me that don't use metal, but I need the leverage. These are very tight. Let me just try this, but without moving it too much. Slightly better. No, it's still a bit crackly on that volume. I thought that would work with the switch cleaner, but maybe it just needs a bit of usage. As I say, this has been put in my garage for years and years and years, so I just decided to get it out and see if we can have a play with it to the benefit of you guys. You might be interested in these little things. These used to be around for a long time in the shops in the 70s and stuff, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared. And I have to say, although battered, when was the last time you saw one? It is that sort of thing. All of a sudden, everything that seems prevalent all of a sudden just disappears, and then starts to get quite rare. It's a bit like sort of the old Mark 1 minis. You see then loads of those in the 70s and the 80s, and then when did you last see one? It's that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is a final little thing. See if we can just try and clean this up just a little bit. So a bit of foam cleaner and a bit of rag. It's not going to win any prize too, I want to do is use the old proverbial toothbrush without taking all this. This is going to take the gold finish if I'm not careful. So let's just do it on the sides. As I say, it is quite ratty. I'm not pretending it's nothing else but that. But it still works. It needs a good clean, doesn't it? It needs quite a bit of attention, to be honest, but let's see if we can get a nice bit of grime off to make it a little bit presentable. As I say, I've got no sort of signal generators or anything to do those oscillator coils, so it was purely just and miss as to whether or not anything would actually sort of happen. See if we can get that bit off the back there. I think those are made by that million in their day. As I say, this is Hong Kong, where everything seemed to come from. That and Taiwan, I think, in the day for these little shapes on a radio. So there you go. So let's try it one more time. Let's get it clean off that. Very directional. Anyway, there you go. Hira 6 transistor radio from the late 1960s. Thought you guys might enjoy that anyway. This is 5 minutes when you're looking on YouTube, but I love these radios. I think they're a great interest. I mean, we've got all their high tech today, your iPhones and your Spotify and your iCloud and everything else, but sometimes, do you know what, old tech is good tech. They're tactile and they're something that's fun to play with, and I think everybody should have a little bit of old tech in their house. So there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, there's plenty of other radio reviews on my YouTube channel, and pop along and have a look if you have time. And as always, appreciate you watching, look after yourself, and I'll catch up with you soon.